Okay, I'm going to make this video to cover the typical mistakes that students make with punctuation in particular, and a little bit with spelling. Um, I'm pulling my hair out. I am pulling my hair out because a lot of you make the same mistakes over and over again, whether you're in high school or middle school, mistakes that should have been corrected when you were in grade school. I'm going to screen share and help you with this. Capitals. Every sentence must begin with a capital letter, just like that one. Don't put capital letters in the middle of a sentence unless you are capitalizing a proper noun. Notice how both those sentences begin with a capital letter, and by the way, end with periods. Proper nouns. What's a proper noun? These are names of people, places, or institutions and must always be capitalized. Note that when referring to the Catholic Church, the word Catholic must be capitalized. If, however, you are using Catholic as an adjective to mean universal, then the adjective Catholic, not being a proper noun, would not be capitalized. But you guys never do that. You're always talking to me about Catholic stuff, and half the time you don't capitalize Catholic. If you mean Catholic Church, it's a proper noun and it must be capitalized, and I will take off points if you don't get it right. This year in particular, I'm noticing this. Ends of sentences. Every sentence must end with a period, question mark, or exclamation point. And questions must end in question marks, such as, what is the speed of light? Question mark. Questions may not end in periods. I don't know what it is. It seems to be a fad. I'm making this video in October of 2021, and this semester, suddenly, nobody wants to use a question mark to indicate a question. Well, it's a bad habit to get into. Questions must end in question marks. Homophones. What's a homophone, Mr. O'Brien? Well, homophone is two different words that mean different things but sound the same, and yet they're spelled differently most of the time. This can be tricky for some people, but you should have learned this in grade school, especially 2, 2, and 2. These are three homophones that mean totally different things and are spelled differently. The word to means typically towards. The word too means also. It also means an intensifier, such as too much. So if you're going to say, I had too much to eat last night and I barfed, you would never say to much. You would always say too much. And of course, 2, the number, means 1 plus 1. Get that right. That's third grade stuff, probably second grade stuff. Get that right. Don't make me lose any more hair. Than and then. THAN is used for comparison. My essay is better than yours. Then THEN is used to connote a later time or a conclusion from a premises. First, I took my dog for a walk. Then, THEN, the alligator ate it. But if you were to say that alligator is bigger than the other one, you'd use THAN. If I do my assignment, then I might get a good grade. If then is THEN, or connoting a difference in time. This happened first, then that happened later. That's always THEN, but than as a comparison is always THAN. Accept and accept. To accept with an A means to receive something. I accept this award, on behalf of all teachers. To accept is to leave something out or to make an exception. I love all food except radishes. Apostrophes and plurals. Apostrophes are used to show possession, which means belonging to. In other words, teachers means belonging to the one teacher, the teacher's pencil. You didn't quite, I kind of did this wrong because you can't really see it. At any rate, I'm going to take away this. Teachers, S apostrophe, means belonging to the more than one teacher. Note that if the apostrophe comes before the S, it means belonging to one person or thing, teachers. If the apostrophe comes after the S, it means belonging to more than one person or thing. So this is my one teacher's pencil, but this is the lounge for all the teachers. So it is the teacher's lounge, S apostrophe. That's tricky, but most of you don't even attempt to use apostrophes to show possession. Those of you who get this wrong, that is. A lot of you get it right. Those of you get it wrong drive me crazy. Plurality, meaning more than one thing, is always shown with an S without an apostrophe. In other words, teachers is a plural noun, meaning more than one teacher. Teacher, apostrophe S, teachers, is a singular noun in a possessive form, meaning belonging to one teacher, and teachers, S apostrophe, is a plural noun in a possessive form, meaning belonging to more than one teacher. That may sound confusing. That's why you need to study this stuff so you get it right. You know, I try to teach at a fairly complex level, even for middle schoolers who are usually pretty smart at Homeschool Connections, but I still have students in high school and in middle school who've never learned how to show plurality and how to show possession. Note that sometimes you need to add an ES and not just an S to form a plural noun. For instance, the plural of box is boxes, ES. This is stuff you learn by reading a lot and by writing a lot. Now, this is something that drives me nuts. Nobody apparently is teaching this. Titles of short works, such as short stories, one-act plays, songs, chapters in books, or essays, should be in quotation marks. Whereas, on the other hand, titles of long works, such as novels, full-length plays, musicals, or symphonies, or collections of essays, should be in italics. You would never do both at the same time. But here's an example. My favorite chapter in the novel, therefore italics, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, is Deep Magic from the Dawn of Time. The chapter is in quotation marks. The novel is in italics. Here's another example. My favorite song from the Beatles album, Beatles is the name of the group, so to show possession, you do Beatles apostrophe. Album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, is being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. The song, a short thing, is in quotation marks. The album, a longer thing, is in italics. Speaking of quotations, this is another thing that I've noticed this year in particular. When quoting someone directly, begin with quotation marks and then end with quotation marks when the quote is over. That's called open quote, close quote. So if you were to say, he said, 70 years ago, and went on from there, you would begin the quote with an open quote, quotation mark. You would end the quote with a close quote, quotation mark. Otherwise, you're getting it wrong. And people don't know when the quote ends. By the way, I'm showing you all this from a Google Doc. If you use Google Docs, even if you use Moodle, if you use a Word doc, probably if you use an open source document, any word processing tool that I can think of, including Gmail, which is not really a word processing tool, all of these will include spell checkers and mistake checkers, and will underline in red words that you've spelled wrong, and usually give you a suggestion for how to spell the word right. Also, sometimes they will underline in blue things that probably don't belong in the sentence, and will give you suggestions as to words that would be a better choice. Use spell checkers. There's no excuse for you guys to make these kind of mistakes. And as I tell my students, you may be really, really smart. You may be the smartest kid in class. You may end up being the smartest adult. You may end up being Albert Einstein. But if you write with simple mistakes in spelling, grammar, and punctuation, everybody's going to think you're an idiot and they won't take you seriously. It's really important to learn proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Now, how can you know this from a 10-minute video? It's hard. Take a writing class. We've got classes at Homeschool Connections. There are classes all over. I can teach you the stuff you should have learned in grade school about proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Take that stuff and learn it. It's like learning how to type. because you'll probably use a keyboard for the rest of your life. I learned how to type in high school, and it's one of the best things I ever learned. Learn these things. They're tools you'll learn forever. Even if you learn nothing from my classes and my boring lectures and my crazy attitudes, even if you learn nothing from me of any deep significance, you should at least, at some point, learn proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And you should learn how to write coherent sentences. So take a writing class, learn these things so people don't think you're stupid, because most of you aren't. Some of you are. Most of you aren't.